20th, 1991, I was expecting a baby. I hear this horrible scream of the patient in the room next to mine.
Where's Curtis? Dr. Glade Curtis!
The intensity of the anger was palpable.
I will kill everyone here, starting with these babies!
I kept thinking, I'm inside this room safe, and my baby's outside there with a madman.
I will kill anyone who gets in my way.
He says he's wiring the door handles shut, and if we open the door, the bomb will go off.
No! No! No!
I heard someone yelling, "Where's Curtis? I know he's here. I'm gonna kill him."
Curtis!
I fell to my knees, and I started praying. September 1991, I was working full-time in labor and delivery at Altaview Hospital.
Altaview Hospital is a small community hospital just south of Salt Lake City. We have a special women's center that was built north of the hospital, not very large, 6 beds, and very much part of the community.
My name is Glade Curtis. In September of 1991, I was in general practice in OBGYN. The Women's Center was separate from the hospital and connected by a hallway. It was a separate building. My business office was one floor up. On the 3rd floor, the Women's Center was on the 2nd floor. A woman would come in, be checked into the room, and she would spend her whole time in that same room, laboring, delivering, and then doing postpartum care.
My name is Cindy Tovey, and September 20th, 1991, I was expecting a baby. Entered the hospital on a beautiful fall morning. I was a little anxious because I didn't have my husband with me. I was going through a divorce. It was just me, my sister, and my mom. But we were excited to find out what I was having, a boy or a girl, and we didn't know.
Honestly, I'll be happy either way. But I have a feeling it's a boy. I guess we'll know soon enough. Bye, Mom.
I was going to be having a C-section. The epidural that they gave me was a type that would last actually all day long, so I'd be paralyzed. Little Chelsea was born, and it was placed into my arms, and oh my gosh, the feeling is so amazing.
Hi, Chelsea. I'm your mama. Yes, I am. I'm your mama.
I went to the hospital, went to Altaview, and my husband at the time went with me, and we delivered Brian. He was a boy. I was a little shocked that he was a boy because we had a girl's name picked out for him. My family and friends came in and visited with me and Brian, and it was just basically a family time.
Mom, can I stay here tonight with you and Brian?
I don't think so, sweetie.
Please?
We'll be home in the morning anyway, honey.
I want to sleep here with you guys.
The hospital won't even let Brian sleep with me. He has to stay in the nursery. See you tomorrow, big sister.
My youngest daughter asked if she could spend the night with me, and I told her that no, it was probably better that she went home with her dad. And I'm glad I did. When I came on duty, 7 p.m., September 20th, 1991, I was assigned the only patient that was in labor at that time.
Hi. I'm Margie.
How are we doing tonight?
Nervous, but excited.
Of course. And how are we managing your pain on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't know, maybe a 4
Okay.
or 5.
4 to 5. Okay, you're doing great. And how's Dad doing tonight? Do you guys know if you're having a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Oh, girls are so much fun. I have a few myself. I'm just gonna take your blood pressure here, okay?
A young mom expecting her first baby, her boyfriend and her sister were with her. She was progressing nicely, and she had an epidural in place so she was comfortable. Jay Louder, her room was right next to the labor room that I was in. Susan Woolley was our charge nurse this particular night. The charge nurse tries to keep the floor running smoothly. We had a nurse assigned to the moms that had already delivered, and we had a couple of nursery nurses assigned to just the babies. Carla Roth, she'd had some years' experience, but she was brand new to Altaview. We really hadn't had a lot of time to sit and chat and kind of get to know each other. So I didn't feel like I really knew who she was very well.
I bet you could use some sleep. Throughout the day, people would come and go, and then after a while, I was pretty tired. It was an exhausting day. And by about 10 o'clock, I had my last guest come into my room.
Sweet dreams, Chelsea.
The nurse actually came in and said, "Why don't I take little baby Chelsea back to the nursery for the night?" And at that time, I was pretty worn out, and I said, "Okay, that would be a good idea." She shut my door, and I lay there in the dark just thinking, oh my gosh, what an amazing day. I closed my eyes and thankful to God and went to sleep.
Who's on call tonight?
Curtis.
I think it's time we give him a call. 10 is getting pretty close.
About 11 p.m., this young mom that I was helping was getting close to delivery. Susan called Dr. Curtis, who was the physician on call, and told him it was time to come in.
I left my home and drove to Altaview Hospital. We were fortunate. We had our individual parking spaces, and there was a plastic name placard with my name on my parking space. So someone that was sitting in the parking lot could see me pull into the hospital. I used my key and went in the door, walked up the stairs 1 floor to the Women's Center. As I stood at the nurse's station, on the wall is a big whiteboard, and that contains the name of the patient, the nurse caring for the patient, the doctor that is on record for that patient. So by looking at that board, you can see where the patients are and who is covering.
Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm Dr. Curtis.
You know what? We're not quite ready for you yet.
Okay. I'll check back in a few minutes.
Hi.
Don't be nervous, okay? You're gonna do great.
Dr. Curtis comes in the room, he introduces himself, and I tell him I'll call him when I'm ready, and he leaves the room.
Dr. Curtis is wonderful. You guys are really lucky he's on call tonight. You're in very good hands.
I was ready to close my eyes and get some good rest. All of a sudden, I hear this big, huge bang crash. I was like startled. It startled me, and then I hear this scream, this horrible scream of the patient in the room next to mine. I was so terrified. I thought, what's happening here?
A man was seen using a landscaping brick breaking into the backside of the Women's Center. A secretary saw this, ran back into the emergency room and called 911. There was a patient in this room. The windows breaking, the blinds are being pulled apart, and guns being pulled in that window. This patient is screaming, trying to get out of bed.
Another nurse comes down that hall, and she's faced with this patient trying to get out of her room and this man right behind her with 2 guns, yelling and swearing and demanding, "Where's Dr. Curtis?"
What are you doing? Where's Curtis? Dr. Glade Curtis! Where is he?
All of us are scared to death.
I saw him come in, now where is he? Sterilizing my wife, and he's gonna pay for it.
When I first heard screaming, my first thought was that it was a husband that was just totally had lost it with his wife. I thought, oh, you know, this doesn't involve me and it doesn't have anything to do with me, so, you know, I'm not going to worry about it.
I could see from the shadows under the doorway, and I could see this lady just, you know, crouched down and screaming and crying. So I went to try to get up to go help her, because that was just my natural instinct to jump and help. And I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't even move an inch. So I was trying to reach for my phone, and I couldn't. And so I pushed the button for the nurse, but nobody came.
Where the hell is he? I want him out here now! Curtis!
He was screaming for Dr. Curtis, yelling, "Dr. Curtis, Dr. Curtis, I'm going to find you." I'm like, why isn't Dr. Curtis coming to help them?
Curtis! I want the doctor who sterilized my wife! I know he's here!
I start hearing yelling out in the hall. The intensity of the anger was palpable. It was so strong.
He's not gonna come in here. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yes, I need security in the women's center.
And I pick up the phone and I said, "I need security." And the operator says, "I know, get off the phone." And she hangs up on me. I was pretty taken back. I don't realize that this scene has been playing out about 3 or 4 minutes prior to what I was hearing.
Where is he? You get that son of a bitch out here now!
I was trying to wrap my head around what's happening. You know, he was using such profanity now, and all of a sudden I hear a gunshot. And I'm like, did I really hear a gunshot?
I had sent Brian to the nursery. The gunshot was shot in front of my door. And that's when I started thinking, there's something else going on here. I thought, this is not good, and God needs to help me here, because this is not going to end good. I fell to my knees, and I started praying. Prayed for not only my safety, but everybody else's.
Do you think I'm kidding?
Finally managed to get the phone and dialed my mom and dad, because they lived just 2 blocks away from the hospital.
Hey, Mom, I'm really scared. I heard a gunshot.
Honey, I'm sure it wasn't a gunshot.
No, this isn't real. There's a man screaming in the hallway. I'm really scared.
Okay, honey, okay. Well, would you feel better if your father came up there?
Yes, please tell him to hurry.
My mom goes, "Oh, sweetie, honey, you're fine. It's just the medication." And I was like, "No, really, this is real. I promise you, Mom, this is real. It's not the medication. I'm really scared." And she said, "Well, why don't I have your dad come up to the hospital? Would that make you feel better?" I'm like, "Oh, yes, that would make me feel a whole lot better." She goes, "Okay, he's on his way, and I'll stay on the phone with you, sweetheart, until he gets to your room."
Mom, I'm trapped in here. I'm really scared.
I just sat in my dark room trying to make out what was really going on outside of my room.
Dr. Glade Curtis, where is he?
He marches down toward the nurse's station, yelling, demanding where Dr. Curtis is. He's yelling phrases like, "I'm gonna kill him. He butchered my wife."
I want the doctor who sterilized my wife. I know he's here.
Susan!
You think I'm treating Curtis? Get out of here now!
Security!
Hang it up! Curtis! Where is he?
He encounters Carla Roth.
That son of a
At gunpoint, he demands, "Where's Dr. Curtis?" And she says to him, "I don't know who Dr. Curtis is." And that just infuriated him because he just assumes she's lying to him.
Curtis! Where is he?
I don't know who that is!
Don't lie to me!
She's new here. She doesn't know Dr. Curtis.
I saw him come in. I know he's here. You get that son of a bitch out here now!
I was back in the doctor's lounge. I heard a loud noise that I thought was a gunshot. And I walked out of the doctor's lounge. I heard someone yelling. And the words I heard were, "Where's Curtis? I know he's here. I'm gonna kill him."
Curtis! Where is he? He sterilized my wife, and he's gonna pay for it! Dr. Glade Curtis!
I didn't know who it was. I didn't say, "Oh, that's Richard Worthington." It didn't make sense. Someone was yelling my name and saying that they were there to kill me. And it was terrifying.
When he entered the building, he was carrying a shotgun and a very large handgun. He was wearing a hat that we had been giving out to the dads, and it said on the front of this hat, "It's a boy." As we're putting the pieces together, we find out this man's name is Rick or Richard Worthington. He is 38 years old. He and his wife had had their 10th delivery, their 8th living child, at Altaview Hospital 2.5 years prior to this night.
Take deep breaths. You okay? What's your pain?
Rick was a very volatile, angry man. His wife, Karen, had chosen to have her tubes tied, which would make it so she could never have children again. This was something she demanded. Richard did not want her to have a tube ligation.
I came to the hospital, and Karen was in labor.
We've talked about this, Rick. We planned this whole time to have this done.
I'm completely opposed. What do you want me to say? Okay, you know what? Maybe we wait and let your doctor perform.
No, we're doing this tonight. I'm serious, Rick.
All right, you know what? It sounds like you guys need to discuss this just a little
No,
bit.
we're doing this. You cannot deny me this, Rick.
You really want me to let you do this? Is that what you want?
Yes!
Fine.
Rick, he said it was okay if Karen wanted to do it, but that he was morally opposed to tubal ligation in general. This is something that Karen had been planning on her whole pregnancy. She had had serious problems during other pregnancies. Medically, a tubal ligation made a lot of sense for her. I did the right medical things for them and took good care of them. The next time I had anything to do with Richard Worthington was September 20th of 1991.
Curtis! Where is he? He sterilized my wife, and he's gonna pay for it.
And I was walking along the back side of the nursery, coming up to the nurse's station.
I am willing to die tonight, and you're all gonna die with me. Now, where is he? I'm gonna kill him.
Dr. Curtis left.
The look that I saw on Susan Woolley's face, without her reacting to me, told me, "Get out of here." And at that point, I went to one of the patients' rooms behind me. I picked up the phone and I called 911.
Hello, this is Dr. Glade Curtis, Altaview Women's Center. There is a man with a gun threatening to kill me and everyone else here. We need help now.
I was in a panicked, a shocked mode and didn't quite know what to do at that point, and so I called my wife.
Honey, listen to me. A man just came into the hospital with a gun, and he's looking for me. No, I don't know. I don't know. Honey, listen to me. Just get the kids next door, okay? I need you to get somewhere safe. Now, I do not know what this guy's capable of.
Rick Worthington was very intelligent. He knew the layout of the floor. He knew exactly where the labor room was that I was in and that Dr. Curtis would be heading there. I think he thought he was there right at that time.
I want Curtis out here now!
He bursts open the door. It's like he hardly even turns the handle. He just forces the door open. He's thrashing the guns around. He's making statements like, I'm gonna kill him. It's all his fault that we cannot have another child.
Where is he? I want Curtis out here now!
Dr. Curtis left! We were not ready for him yet.
Oh, you better not be lying to me. Curtis!
I said, Dr. Curtis left. I didn't need him yet. My mind quickly thought, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I gave him a clue that Dr. Curtis was coming back. Then he quickly leaves, and we are just shocked beyond words.
Listen to me, Deborah. Look at me. It's gonna be okay. You take a deep breath. I can deliver your baby. I've delivered lots of babies. Hold her hand. It's gonna be okay. Take a deep breath.
Yes, we need security. We need someone to come here. We're in the Altaview Women's Center.
I'm saying to the patient, it's okay. He won't come back. I pick up the phone again. I'm thinking, I don't need hospital security. I need Sandy City Police.
It's an emergency situation.
I saw him come in. Now where is he? I am ready to die tonight. And Dr. Curtis is coming with me. And I will kill anyone who gets in my way. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now move, both of you, move! Get the babies. Get the baby now! Get the baby now! Hurry up!
I was pretty scared listening to Worthington screaming at the top of his lungs such profanity that he was going to kill everybody in there, that nobody would leave the hospital alive. I was frantic because I couldn't get a hold of the nurse and I didn't have my baby with me.
Hurry, get down on the ground, down on the ground. Get over here now. Right outside, I have enough dynamite to bring this whole place to the ground. Did you think I'm kidding?
No, we don't.
Get up. Both of you, come on, you're going with me. Come on, down there, let's go, come on.
Rick ordered Carla and one of the other nurses to go outside with him. He said he had a box of dynamite outside the hospital and he wanted to get it.
In the parking lot. The blue with the blue. Let's go.
I'd heard him screaming that he had enough dynamite to blow up the entire hospital. I went to the window and saw him carrying a shotgun and was herding the two nurses out like they were sheep. One of the nurses reached at his waist and grabbed something and took off running.
Stop it! Stop!
And then I heard a shot. I thought, my gosh, he just killed a nurse.
Carla grabs one of the guns away from him, gets about 8 feet away from him, and he shoots her in the back. The bullet going through her aorta, which is the main big blood vessel from her heart.
Carla! She shouldn't have. Get up, come on. Carla! Carla! Come on. Carla! Oh, Carla! Come on. Come on!
My name is Casey Kimmel, and my mother was Carla Roth. She loved the little babies, so that's ultimately why she went into OB to be an OBGYN nurse. You know in your mind, even at 16, what it means when cops are at your door. My brother and I were hoping that they had gotten my mom's identification wrong. That it was actually somebody else and not my mom that had been killed. They were right. It was my mom.
Susan told me later that Rick would not allow her to kneel down and comfort Carla, and that was very upsetting to Susan. And he marches her back into the building. There were police officers out front of the building in unmarked cars. They were standing behind their vehicles with their weapons drawn. And I don't know why they did not make the decision to shoot him at that time. Whether their shot wasn't clear enough, I don't know.
Command Center, portable check. Copy.
In September 1991, I was a member of the SWAT team. The SWAT team that I was on had about approximately 9 members, and that included 2 snipers. There was a hostage situation at Altaview Hospital, and 1 person had already been shot and killed. It was horrible to think that someone had already lost their life, so that escalated it right away to the point where this is a serious situation. The initial officers, when the nurses came out, in reading some of their police reports, they're saying, you know, I'm sure in the back of their heads they're going, why didn't I shoot him? In reality, there's nothing that could have changed that outcome. That outcome, you know, was Rick's doing, and there was nothing that the officers could have done.
In the middle of the night, I remember receiving a call that there was a crisis at Altaview Hospital. The nurse had been shot, the whole facility was surrounded, and that we needed to evacuate the hospital.
At this point, I know there are other patients on the floor. I knew there were patients on both sides, and I knew Cindy Tovey was farther down the hall, and I knew there was at least 1 patient on the far side of the hall where he entered the hospital. I knew there were several babies in the nursery, including what we call a border baby, a baby that was not healthy enough to go home, but her mother had gone home.
I was concerned about the fact that there were babies in bassinets in the nursery. I thought I would be quieter if I took my shoes off, and I left them in that room and went barefoot down that back hall into the nursery area.
We have to get these babies out of here.
I saw a very startled, scared nurse, and I said, we need to get these babies out of here. I picked a baby up out of a bassinet, and I believe we put a couple of babies into 1 bassinet. My recollection is that there were 5 or 6 bassinets in the nursery, but at that time we could take a couple of them and then we would come back and get some more.
Take that bassinet, go out that door down the corridor to the west elevator.
I said hurry up! Come on! on the porch. Here, grab this. Come on.
Looking through those windows, I could see Richard Worthington walking down the hallway with Susan Woolley in front of him and a gun to the back of her head.
Everyone on the floor now. On the floor now. You down, down, down. Not you. Up.
He killed her, Margie. He killed her.
Shut her up.
It's gonna be okay.
He brings Susan back up into the labor room that I'm in. And on his way, he picks up 2 babies in bassinets. Susan says to me, he killed Carla.
He killed her. She's dead. She's
Shut her.
dead.
Shut her.
He takes his gun and he shoots a hole in the window, and we can see the police out there. At this time, he orders all of us down on the floor except for me. He's continually yelling and swearing and screaming.
You, I want you to get Curtis on the phone now, or I will kill everyone here, starting with these babies. Get away. Back the hell away. Back away. You two are next. Now, which is it gonna be?
Pointing a gun in my face, he said, I'm gonna shoot you or Susan. Who do you want me to shoot first? Well, you just keep your mouth shut. It's all you can do.
I came out through the hallway, went through the door, and there were 2 police officers there from Sandy City. And I said to them, I know where the man is inside that has the gun. Let me show you where he is. At that point, they wouldn't let me go back in. It was a very helpless feeling. I knew what I'd left behind with people in danger and a bad situation.
As we were arriving as SWAT members, we had no knowledge of who the suspect was in the hospital that was taking the hostages. The command center had been set up on the north end of the hospital, I would say 500 yards from the hospital. It was a command post, which was a motorhome type style. One of the first actions, and when the command staff came out, they took our snipers. They had evacuated all the homes on the east side, and that's where they had deployed our snipers. They could see movement within the hospital. Our team had never dealt with anything this big. You almost had to take 2 steps back and take a deep breath and say, okay, we need to plan this correct. I wanted to believe there was no way that Rick was going to hurt the infants. I said, how could anybody hurt the infants? But then you're also thinking, how could he shoot a nurse in the back?
My dad came to the hospital, and when he tried to go into the hospital, of course, they stopped him and said, no, sir, you cannot go in there. And he says, well, my daughter's in there. I need to get to her. They instructed him to go back home and keep me on the phone and just keep talking to me.
I can't move at all, Dad. I can't get to Chelsea.
Honey, don't worry. It'll be all right.
I just want to get Chelsea and get out of here.
Brian was my 5th child and my last child. At some point, Brian was taken from the nursery. I could hear Brian crying at the time, and I kept thinking, that's my baby. I'm inside this room safe, and my baby's outside there with a madman.
I want you to call my wife. Come on!
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call her.
Rick yells at me, tells me he wants me to call his wife. And I had to ask him, what is her name? He spits out her name and the phone number, and I dial it. And I remember she picked up on the first ring, which really surprised me.
Hello, Karen. My name is Margie. I'm a nurse at the Alto View Women's Center, and we're here with your husband. He's taken a bunch of people hostage with guns.
I tell her, Karen, this is Margie Weiler, and I am at Alto View Hospital, and your husband Rick is holding us at gunpoint. And she says to me, I am so sorry, what can I do? And I'm thinking, I have no idea. I don't know. And she said to me, I knew he was coming up there 45 minutes ago. I should have called the police. My theory is he'd probably threatened 100 times before and not followed through, and she was hoping he wouldn't follow through this time.
Heather, I wanted to come down here.
He would like you to come down here right now. Okay. Okay.
What'd she say? What'd she say?
She's coming, okay? And she's bringing your bishop with her.
What? No. No! 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 No!
The next thing I know is that I hear voices, and I can hear him crying at the time. And then I hear a gunshot. And Brian stops crying. And I'm thinking he just killed my son. I used to think that, you know, the safest place was a maternity ward. I mean, who's going to come through and cause so much chaos and so much hurt? But it's not safe anymore. Brian stopped crying altogether. My first thought was, is he just shot my baby? I didn't hear Brian at all. I heard Richard Worthington saying he's gonna start going from room to room shooting moms and babies. And I thought, you know, you've already done that with mine. You've already killed my son.
Rick shoots the phone. I pick up the phone off the sheet and it's melted into the sheet, and I just peel it off, set it aside.
From the first words that I heard of the loud noise and someone yelling my name, it was all incomprehensible. By midnight, I was out of the Women's Center, and they were beginning to evacuate patients from the hospital.
They transferred patients from Altoview Hospital to Cottonwood Hospital, getting the patients out of harm's way into another place. The hospital was just totally surrounded by police at that time, so I went to Cottonwood Hospital to find out what was going on.
I walked over to the emergency room, and I said, who was killed? And they told me that it was Carla Roth. I didn't know Carla very well. I had met her. I think this was either her first or second shift at the hospital. Most of the other labor and delivery nurses I had worked with for 8 years. They told me that she was there in the emergency room if I wanted to see. I wanted to see who it was. I was able to walk to an area where they had her body and with curtains, and I could go in and see her and see her body. And I spent a few moments in there, and those were difficult moments. It was a devastating moment to see that. And there was no chance to save her. The shot killed her almost immediately.
I don't remember exactly when we found out. exactly what was going on. It was a while before we knew all the events that occurred at the hospital and that it was Worthington that broke into the hospital and had killed her. We just knew somebody had shot her.
Just before midnight, 39-year-old Richard Worthington stormed the emergency room at Altaview Hospital in Santa, Utah.
Watching the siege play out on the TV was surreal. It's hard to understand what was going on and realize that my mom was part of that. My mom went for the shotgun, but didn't see the .357 Magnum. On the same hand, he had the shotgun cradled.
Just stay calm and keep talking to me, sweetheart.
I can't move at all, Dad. I can't get to Chelsea. I'm trapped.
I was so scared. I don't know what's happening, and I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything. My dad ends up home instead of into my room. He takes the phone and he says, "Sweetheart, there is something happening. And you just need to be... You just need to stay calm and you'll be okay." And so I was like, okay. And he says, "But I'm gonna just stay on the phone with you until they come in. But they're actually, sweetheart, evacuating everybody in the hospital." And just then I heard Worthington scream, "Nobody is going to leave this hospital alive."
Listen carefully. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! There's a black box just outside in the bushes. You have 2 minutes to go out there and get it. Bring it back up here, or I start shooting. Do you understand? Go!
Rick Worthington at this point is getting more anxious, more volatile, more desperate.
Freeze! You can't go back in there!
We can hear him run down the hall and outside, and he searches around for that black box. And the police are yelling at him, "Stop, stop, don't go back in there." And the boyfriend says to the police, "I have to go back in there, my wife is in there." And he comes back up. We can hear him running down the hall toward us. He comes back in the room and he hands Rick this black box. I've never seen dynamite in my life, but I had no doubt that that's what it was.
When the bomb goes off, these will tear this place apart. Go to the window and tell them.
He has me yell out the window to the police, "He has dynamite." And I hear the police repeat that down the line. By now, I can see multiple police cars outside that window. He also has a lot of fine wires wadded up, so to speak, in this box. And he has a Ziploc baggie full of nails. And he holds that up and he says, "This is so that when the bomb goes off, it will do more damage."
They want us to splinter into twos here, then clear the rooms here and here, working our way east. Entry, cover. Copy? All right, let's go.
After we look at the blueprints as a SWAT team, we come up with a plan of attack. What we were going to do is we were going to make entry at that first level on the west side. And then we were going to split into two-man teams and start to clear the hospital. We would go from room to room, doing what we call a deliberate search.
Come on, hit the button. Come on, let's go.
He feels like he can't see who could be sneaking up on him in the hall. So he decides he's going to move us. And I say to him, "Can I take my delivery instruments?" And he says no. I wished I hadn't have said that. I wished I'd just taken what I needed. So I take only the things that are attached to the patient.
All right, get in there. Get him in, get him in. Just pull push!
Those elevators were different sizes. The smaller elevator opens first. Susan and the boyfriend push the bassinets into the elevator. The bed won't fit.
Let's pull it up. Just pull it.
John! John!
Everybody out. Let's go. Come on.
Susan tells me, I knew that if that elevator closed, he would have no control over where I went. At the last moment, he sticks his foot in, stops the elevator from closing, pulls everybody out. The larger elevator comes. We push the bed in, but now the bassinets won't fit. So we take the babies out of the bassinets and all of us get on the elevator. He takes us up to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is where the physicians' offices are. Dr. Curtis shared an office with Dr. Hansen and Dr. Tanner. We go up to that suite of offices. There's a glass panel next to the door, and he shoots a hole in that.
You! Get over there, reach in and open the door. Come on, come on! Hurry up!
We open it wide, and the bed won't fit through. So we take the laboring patient and we lift her with the sheet onto the floor and drag her into the waiting room at these offices.
Where's Curtis's office? Where is it?
It's right there!
All right, you 3, come on, let's go. Come on, leave her there.
No!
Right back.
No!
Right
No!
back. Let's go. Come on, get in there, come on. Get the lights. You, everything in that file, destroy it. You, the computer, you, everything in that cabinet, now. Come on, go.
He orders the sister to destroy all the files. He orders the boyfriend to destroy the office. He tells me to destroy the computers. He shot up some keyboards. He shot up another telephone.
All of the diplomas from college, medical school, residency was destroyed. Months later, as I was seeing patients, I would find buckshot in a patient's chart. Around midnight to 1 o'clock, they lost track of where Rick was.
We never had an exact location. Every one of us knew that at any time we could encounter him on that 2nd floor. My partner that day was Keith Livingston. As we started to move, my heartbeat was so loud that I could hear it in my microphone.
Come in, do you copy?
I can hear whispering right outside the door. He knows I'm here, Dad.
I was telling my dad, I said, Dad, there's a shadow at my door. And I said, it stopped. And so I'm whispering to him in the phone, and I said, I'm scared. And just then the door flung open, and I was probably beyond terrified at that moment.
Where's my baby? I need to find my baby.
2 men dressed in black with masks on, guns pointed right at me. I was so mortified and terrified that I just wanted them to shoot me because I thought it was the bad guys. And then I happened to look down at this guy in black that had some letters on his shirt that said SWAT. And I can't tell you, from one extreme of emotions to another of relief.
She was talking loud and you know, where's my baby? Our big concern at that point was obviously she was going to give away our location. Shh, you know, be quiet, you know, you got it, you can't give away our location.
He's like, okay, we're evacuating the hospital. We need you to get out of your bed and let's go. And I says, I can't move. I'm paralyzed. After they put the epidural in me, I was still, you know, numb from the waist down.
Keith picked her up, and then I moved out in the hallway and said, clear, everything's clear, let's move out.
Right by the nursery was where the staircase where that they were gonna go down. And I stopped and said, no, I don't want to go without my baby. when I'm holding the doorway with my hands. And I'm like, please let me get my baby. I just want to have my baby first. She's just in that room right over there. Can't you just go get her? And he goes, I promise you, we will go get her. But I've got to get you down.
I had no idea where her baby was, and I lied. I mean, I just basically said, we got all the babies out, we've got all the babies out. But, you know, in the back of my mind, I didn't know if her baby was one of the hostages.
We need to have this baby now. We're gonna walk you through every step of it.
No.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand.
Susan and I decide enough time has gone by that we need to deliver this baby. It's about 3:30 in the morning.
He thinks that Dr. robbed him of a baby girl. What if he tries to take my baby? I can't do this now. I can't do this.
Rick Worthington had repeatedly ranted that he thought he was robbed of a baby daughter because Dr. Curtis doing the tubal ligation on his wife. So because of that, my laboring patient was very fearful that he would take this baby daughter from her. So she was not anxious to deliver.
Do you know how many babies Susan and I have delivered together? We're gonna be just fine. We're gonna walk you through every single moment. Every single moment. And you're gonna be okay.
I am saying to my laboring mom, it will be okay. We can help you through this. It'll be okay. We'll protect you the best we can. You know, just reassuring her that we did not have an option, but we needed to deliver this baby now. I was looking for any supplies that I could use to deliver this baby. We found very, very few. I remember going in the bathroom and there was a grease pencil that they would use to label urine specimens. And I turned that Kleenex box over and I wrote on it, Dale, who was my husband, I love you.
We're gonna breathe together. Grab that door.
Okay, I got it. Come on, sweetheart, here we go.
Keep breathing. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
Rick allows us to drag the patient on that sheet into Dr. Keith Hansen's office and close the door.
I'm gonna wire this door. Don't even think about coming through it. Do you understand?
He says he's wiring the door handles shut with the bomb, and if we open the door, the bomb will go off.
Keep going.
Yeah, hold it. Push. Here we go. All right, now take a deep breath. There we go. Take a deep breath, and then we're gonna push really, really hard.
And one.
Really hard. Here we go. You're doing great. That's it. And push for me. Push.
Just a bit more, baby. Come on.
Slow down. Take a break. You're doing great. You're so close.
I didn't have medications I would normally use to help to control the bleeding. We just had to do what we could with no tools. Susan and I were able to deliver this baby. So at about 3:30 a.m., the hostage count goes from 7 to 8 when we deliver this beautiful little baby girl as our 8th hostage.
Oh, look at you.
During the time of the siege, Rick Worthington had taken 2 nurses hostages, 2 baby hostages, an expectant mother, family members, and a baby that was born. And prior to that, he had killed Carla Roth, all during the siege.
I heard the door and I thought, here I go. He's coming in and he's gonna kill me. So I ran into the bathroom and I pressed myself up against the wall. I don't know why I was thinking that, that would hide me. I looked up and saw that it said SWAT and I just kind of collapsed. I kept telling him, I need to go next door and get my baby. I told the SWAT guy that whoever was in there had just shot my child. And I wanted his body. They kept telling me no, no. I was kind of pushed out the front door. The SWAT team started bringing in other moms. All these moms had their babies. All the moms and the babies, they were all herded out towards the ambulances.
Your baby is waiting for you at Cottonwood Hospital.
This nurse, she says, hey, I just want you to know that I got your baby out. And that she was waiting at Cottonwood Hospital for me. I was so relieved to know that she was okay.
I stood and argued with the nurse, telling her I'm not leaving. I am not leaving without that child. And that's when they told me that he's not there.
I'm not going. I'm not leaving without my baby's body. He shot my baby. I know he's dead. I know it. I know he's dead.
There was this young mother that didn't have her baby with her. She was crying and saying, he killed my baby, he shot my baby. I remember feeling just horrible for her.
Patients were transferred from Altaview Hospital to Cottonwood Hospital. I go to the hospital, we had a number of patients from Altaview Hospital who were in our maternity ward. And I asked for a list of those names and who they were, and so I could go visit them and think things were calming down. People were feeling comfortable, they were feeling protected. Until I approached one door where one lady was there, and she was totally panicky and was afraid that I was going to tell her that her baby was dead. Here's this lady in terrible pain. Even today, it's hard for me to understand how difficult that was for that young lady, realizing that she had had to do something that, because of the tremendous situation and the fear that she had for this young child. And I chatted with the nurse a little bit, and I found out that this was the lady that had to leave her baby at the hospital and was now a captive. I kind of left her alone after that, but was very aware in my mind that during the situation that I hope this situation would resolve itself positively. Didn't know at the time what was going to happen.
My name is Don Bell. I was the senior hostage negotiator for the Salt Lake City Police Department. I knew that something had been happening. This was going to be a switch out of personnel. I found the command center. It was a medical library or something. The only lighting that was available was emergency lighting. So it was very dark, it was very quiet, and there were absolutely no people around. It was just an eerie kind of situation.
Don Bell, Salt Lake City. Good to meet you.
Two negotiators that were there on site for the last 4 or 5 hours, they brought me up to date with what information they had. I think the thing that worried me the very most is I was told right off that Rick Worthington had shot and killed a nurse.
No!
Initially, it was just decided that two that were on site would continue conversations. There would be hours where there was no communication at all. And if he happened to answer the phone that they were calling in on, those conversations were always very short. Probably not a single one of them lasted longer than a couple of minutes before he would get angry or just simply hang up. The earlier negotiators had actually talked with some of the hostages, but I don't know which ones at that point.
Tell him it was all his fault.
He says that it's all Dr. Curtis's fault.
He never once apologized to me. He never once called me back. It's not my fault. You're all gonna die. It's his fault!
He says that it's...
Now I want you to call the news station.
I'm on the phone hundreds, it feels like hundreds of times, talking to people he's ordering me to call, or it may be the police.
He called a radio station And the radio station, the disc jockey actually talked with him, and Rick was sort of explaining that a lot of the stuff that was coming out on the news was wrong. And he was very, very angry and upset about that. It was at that time I said, why aren't these phones restricted? They couldn't find the right maintenance people, so that created an intense problem.
As the siege continues and the hours are ticking by, Rick Worthington is less volatile. There's more quieter times. He supplies us with paper and pencils, and he instructs us to write letters home to our families. This is the first time I actually cry. I'm writing maybe goodbye letters to my husband and my children. I talk to each child individually, telling them my hopes and my dreams for them.
I want you to tell them that you love them. And if anything happens to you, they should sue this hospital.
One of us asked him, how's our family going to get these letters? And he says in this all-powerful tone, I will make sure that your family gets those letters. Susan and I both know that these babies are going to wake up and be hungry. We essentially had no way to feed these babies. These babies have been remarkably quiet, and the reason being is Rick Worthington had sprayed ether around the office. It has kind of sedated these babies a little bit, so they're very quiet.
Come in, we got a strong scent of ether in the west stairwell. Copy?
After clearing the second floor and verifying that it was nobody else in there, and we were holding on that west stairway, we started to get a strong smell of ether. And we reported to the command post, said there's ether. That was to enhance the explosion of the bomb.
He had said that he had explosive devices and he was going to blow everybody up. That was in fact true. Some explosive experts had visited his home in connection with a search warrant and had found liquid form of like dynamite. And there were 28 empty tubes missing from his work garage. They found a timing device and wires and PVC pipe, which is all consistent with what you'd need if you build a bomb.
Apparently he had used dynamite in a landscaping business, so he knew how to use it and what to do. I was told that Rick had enough dynamite to destroy the whole hospital, to blow up a whole block.
We started getting a strong smell of ether. It was very concerning to us because ether as a gas could be an enhancement for the explosion if that bomb was detonated. In our minds, we're going, okay, is this serious? Do we need to get out of here or what?
Dr. Curtis ready to talk yet?
Rick, this is Don Bell from Salt Lake City Police Department.
There's nothing you can do.
Look, Rick, the nurse that you shot, Carla, she's hurt pretty bad.
I know I killed her.
And Dr. Curtis,
The reason we are in this mess.
you get him on the phone now. I'm working on that, Rick.
Let me get my wife on the phone. Now! It's not my fault you're all gonna die tonight. It's his fault!
Around 11 o'clock, I finally made contact with Rick Worthington, and all he kept saying over and over again, I want Dr. Curtis, I want Dr. Curtis, and then he changed it to he also wanted to speak to his wife. And so I keyed on the wife part saying, I'll try and find her. I actually walked by her 2 or 3 times, had no idea who she was. And they go, she's that lady that you've been walking by there. And so I went and actually had my very first conversation with her.
Karen?
Yeah.
Don Bell.
Nice to meet you.
So how have things been between you and Rick?
Not great. I've been thinking about leaving him.
Rick Worthington was known to be very volatile and have an anger management problem.
I didn't want Karen Worthington to talk to her husband at all. I'm afraid if she says the wrong thing and he realizes there's no hope, and if he has a bomb, it could all end with the flick of a switch.
In my phone calls with the police negotiator, Don Bell, we had told him we need supplies, and Rick Worthington wanted food. But Rick Worthington had huge demands on how we could get these supplies. The only way he would allow it is if they got a helicopter and roped it in a window, another window that he had broken out.
Look, I can get you the pizzas and I can get you the medical kit, but I cannot deliver them by helicopter.
Okay, I'll tell him. He said he can't get a helicopter up here.
There's no way we can do that. We can't get it up there. And his response, he says, well, I hope you can find a good quarterback that has a good throwing arm, because there's no other way you're going to get it here.
Probably about 4 in the afternoon, and Rick picks up the phone and calls his home.
Daddy?
Hey, bud. You still love me? Am I still your bud?
Daddy?
Where
are you?
I'm sorry if I hurt you and your brothers and sisters. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, bud. I love you.
I love you too, Daddy.
He gets his son Spencer on the phone, and tears are running down his face. Tears are running down my face. It was one of the saddest things I'd ever experienced.
Margie,
Yeah?
you want to walk out of here now?
I want all of us to walk out of here.
I didn't mean for this to happen this way.
How about if we come up with a new plan?
What about my wife and my kids? She'll never forgive me.
They'll forgive you. Just, you have to give them time. They will. They will.
No, Margie. I'm blowing it.
There's still time to do the right thing.
Rick says to me, okay, here's what you have to do. I want you to cut off my little finger and take it to my wife. In the Japanese culture, that is a symbol of asking forgiveness. And my mind is thinking, I don't know if I can do that. When it starts to hurt, will he shoot me? And I said to Rick, Rick, I don't think I can do that. And Rick says to me, oh hell, let's just get out of here. Okay. I get back on the phone. I want to tell Don Bell he's going to let us out. And it rings, and it rings, and it rings, and it rings, and nobody will pick up.
Once I was back at Cottonwood Hospital, they brought me my baby. Oh my gosh, I just held her so tight, and it felt so good. I did not want her leaving my room that night. It's the most amazing feeling when you felt so helpless before, and then having her and holding her, it was amazing. I was rescued at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning. As I lay in my room, I had turned on the news, and I was actually watching everything because I really didn't know what was happening.
Just before midnight, 39-year-old...
When I'd seen what was going on the TV and had heard that Richard Worthington was holding hostages, I figured Brian was probably still in the same room. I was already certain that he was dead. I think I had a little bit of apprehension, thinking, well, maybe he was still alive, but maybe he was just, slowly bleeding to death. I didn't know if I had a chance with him, even getting him back. And I had finally resolved, thinking that if God needs him more than I do, then I would accept that. I know that I probably went to sleep for a little bit, and then I woke up and it was like, this is not a nightmare. This is really happening. This is for real.
I am kind of feeling desperate and shocked. Where is he? Answer the phone.
The lines just went dead. We headed over to the building, and then the scout team was going to take me up to the location where I could talk through the stairwell. As I entered the building, I ran into our explosive expert, a detective who was there on scene, and I was asking him, tell me the truth about the explosives. I need to know where I can go and where it'll be safe. And he said, as long as you stay in this area, he says, we've now decided that if the bomb explodes, the main burst will be up through the ceiling. As long as you're not on the roof or you're not in that immediate area, you'll probably be safe. And I said, okay. I noticed that he was carrying one of the very first cell phones that was out there.
Hey, does this work?
I started dialing that, and Margie picked up. And Margie was upset. Margie says, I've been trying to get you. I think Rick wants to surrender.
Oh my God, I've been trying to reach you. Rick is ready to turn himself in, but here's the deal. He wants to speak with his wife.
Just let him know that he can talk to her from a distance, okay? But he's gonna have to give up the hostages and turn himself in.
You can talk with your wife, but here's the deal. You have to talk to her from a distance, and you have to let everyone go. You're gonna have to turn yourself in. He says yes. Yes, he said yes.
That's great. Stay on the line, Margie. We'll get this figured out right now.
We come up with a plan that Rick will be given a minute with his wife, and then the police will move in. And I tell that to Rick, that is the plan. And it takes probably an hour of them getting things in place, and it feels like forever.
I kept her on that phone. I went back to the command center and said, he wants to surrender. This is the deal. He's willing to come out if we can set this up.
We were holding on the stairway. Our plan as a SWAT team was that we were going to deliberately move and block him off from the explosives and the hostages, so that if he changed his mind and he started to run back to access those things, we could cut him off.
We were all standing around in the waiting room, kind of in a circle. The atmosphere is pretty light, and we're pretty trusting. The police, on the other hand, they're not very trusting at all.
No, I told you that the dynamite is still in the hallway.
The police keep saying to me things like, where's the gun? Where's this? Where's that? Where's the bomb? Everything is back farther in the offices except the handgun. The boyfriend moves close to the door frame. Rick is right behind him with his gun in his hand. The police grab the boyfriend and pull him out.
No! Stay back! You liars! You couldn't keep your promise! You just couldn't let me have 1 minute with my wife! You liars!
He thinks you're liars. He's not gonna let us go. You blew it. Why did you do that?
Rick's furious. He thinks they've lied to him. They couldn't keep their promises. They moved in. They didn't give him that minute his wife. He's closing the door and trying to barricade us back in. And I'm on the phone still with Don Bell, and I'm saying, you blew it. He saw you guys. He thinks you're lying. He's not going to let us out.
I don't know what happened, Margie, okay? Just do what you can. Do what you can to keep him calm.
I said, I don't know what to tell you, Margie. I don't know why it didn't go the way that we thought it was going to.
You couldn't even keep your promise!
Susan had been extremely quiet for most of this 18 hours. She saw the shooting of Carla, and she was very subdued. At this point, she gets very verbal.
Please, let's just end this. I'll walk out with you together, all right? Let's just do it. It's time. Okay? Okay. Let's go.
Rick, we can do this. We will go out with you arm in arm. We'll be there with you. We'll support you. We can do this. And is able to kind of calm him down again.
Yes. Okay.
Susan and one baby is in the door frame, and Rick is right behind her. I can tell his whole demeanor has changed, and he's given up.
It's time. Let's go.
I reach out and I touch his arm, and he doesn't pull away from me. And then I take the gun out of his hand. And when I did that, he walked out into the outer lobby, and the police move in and tackle him.
Put your hands up.
That's good.
We open the door into the sunlight, and it is 6 p.m. The greatest thing of the whole event happened to me right then.
Margie! Oh. God, I'm so happy to see you.
I call it a blessing. I didn't see an angel. I didn't hear any voices. I just knew instantly in my heart that it was a blessing. Something came to me that I could forgive him and that I did not have to judge him.
As we came out the doors, I got to see the pool of blood where Carla had been shot. It's just disturbing because that's where a person lost their life.
Rick did end up getting to talk to his wife. Not where he thought he was going to, but he did. When they really got to look at the bomb, all it would have taken, just a light switch. That's all that was controlling that bomb.
For years, I didn't talk about it. You don't want to talk about the failures. One of the great successes that I did talk about a lot was Cindy. When we made entry into this specific room, I immediately recognized that this was Cindy, a girl that I had gone to high school with. How did our paths cross? How did that happen? So Cindy and I, 5 to 6 years later, ran into each other at a car wash. And we give big hugs and, how you doing? And I said, Altaview. And she kind of gets these big eyes like, Altaview, what? What about Altaview? And I said, did they ever tell you? I was the one in your room. I was the one talking to you.
I was just like, you what? And he goes, yeah. He says, that was me. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad it was you.
When I had finally heard on the news that he had given up, it was kind of a relief because I thought, now I'll get Brian. I'll get his body.
When I heard that the crisis was over, the first thing I did was contact the administrator inside at Altaview Hospital and told him that we need to get Mrs. Louder's baby over to the hospital ASAP. He indicated to me that may be kind of impossible because the situation was just chaotic over there. And I said, you need to do this. You need to resolve this for this patient.
Well, there was a knock at the door, and it kind of just slowly opened up. There's my child. He is alive.
Hi. 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 Oh.
I wanted to jump up out of that bed and grab that baby and never let him go.
Watched that mother hold that baby. And I thought to myself, I don't think that baby's ever going to leave that mother's side.
Rick Worthington was taken off to jail. He was eventually sentenced to 35 years in prison.
He attempted suicide a couple of different times and eventually succeeded. I have to admit that I felt some relief. I was looking over my shoulder for a long time after that. I knew how close I came to dying that night, and I practice medicine today, and I think I am a better doctor today than I was then because of this experience.
My patients will say, so have you worked here a long time? Oh yeah, I've been here for many, many years. Well, were you here the night? Yeah, I was here. People want to talk about it. I'm just amazed how often it gets brought up.
Oh, I think the hostages are the heroes. For years, it was always strange to drive by there and know that I knew that facility so well and under that situation. I eventually went back a couple of weeks later, actually to where Rick Worthington was holed up. It was a very surreal moment to be there, knowing all the stuff that had gone on.
Today, when I think of what my mom did, I'm proud. It could have been a lot worse. That night, when my mom left for work, I didn't even get up and say goodbye. It's one of my biggest regrets, not getting up and kissing her and hugging her and telling her goodbye. Never take for granted the opportunity to say goodbye to your loved one.